Thing, but fixing your financial affairs, that can be way more difficult. Enter financial therapy. Bruce, what is financial therapy?
It is the intersection of financial health and emotional health, right? And often those two things, we know they're connected, and yet we support them in very different ways. So you go to see a financial advisor about retirement planning, and you go see a therapist to talk about relationships. Well, what if there was a world in which it was one person you went to? It is a relatively new field. There's an association, there's some programs, but it's not super easy to find a practitioner.
Okay, very interesting, and I like the whole idea of this. So what would be some things that you would go to see a financial therapist for?
So I talked to a woman named Erica Wasserman, who's a financial therapist in the U.S. She did her certification at Kansas State University, and she gave me this example of a married couple who came to her for therapy because you've got the wife on the one hand who entered the marriage. It was the second or third marriage for the husband, and she had an expectation for a certain lifestyle. The husband, on the other hand, has a $2 million tax lien, right? So there are very complicated issues that that require insight into both those worlds. So it could be marriage, it could be debt, it could be divorce, it could be spending, career. It's more about the relationship with money than it is about how money works. That's kind of like the easy part here.
Now, she also talked about something called your swan. What does that mean?
Sleep well at night. And this can be in a whole bunch of different areas, but let's use an emergency fund as an example. For some people to sleep well at night, they need to save 3 months of mortgage payments. For other people to sleep well at night, they need to save 3 years of mortgage payments. And so it's really important to know what your swan is and compare and contrast with your spouse. The other area that she focuses on is healing. And, that's really important work in a therapeutic context. But let's talk about money. Say you had a very, very tough childhood and money was always hard to come by. As a grown-up, you could react in two ways. Number one, you could spend everything you have always, so you never have those feelings that there isn't enough, that you're living in this world of scarcity. Or you could never spend a penny because you don't want to be in dire straits again. So the work of the financial therapist is to help the client heal such that they can make choices about the future versus about the past.
Wow, the human brain is a pretty amazing thing, but everyone is different. So how can financial therapy help those who are different?
Well, I think we're learning so much more about what is neurotypical and what is not neurotypical. One example would be ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Let's talk about some of those symptoms. It can be impulsiveness, it can be disorganization, it can be emotional dysregulation. Put all that into a financial context, and it can be very, very difficult to manage. So when you look at financial therapy, you think about the whole person, and you think, if that person has ADHD, then how is that going to be different in working with them on finances? Because it for sure is going to be different. Because what needs to happen is the underlying condition, the underlying issues need to be resolved. So, I might say, take Uber Eats off your phone, and the person who's dealing with depression says, listen, I can't get off the couch. That is the only way I can get food into my house. So a financial therapist, or at least that context, can really make a difference in saying, listen, it's not so much about the money, it's about all the other things that you're dealing with.
Do you have some points for us?
I do. Two things. Advocate for yourself, which is so difficult when you're dealing with a crushing debt load or a crushing mental health issue, but you need to advocate for yourself. Given that there aren't a million financial therapists in this country, what I would look at is with a financial advisor, say, hey, heads up. Just so you know, I have ADHD and I have a really hard time following through on things. So could you be the one who keeps the list of things that I need to do? And could you keep reminding me of the things that I need to do? If you're working with a traditional therapist or counselor, say, listen, one of the things I have a really hard time with is money. Could we include that in the conversation? So when I look at these issues, you know that that's a real a blind spot or a weak spot for me. So with those service providers, for lack of a better word, with those people who are providing support for you in other areas, put finances front and center as a part of that, not because you want to be the richest person on the block, but because those are inextricably linked to your mental health.
Huge props to you, Bruce, because you've always been very good about tying in the emotion with the financial and the personal finance, and we so appreciate that around here, so thank you.